Today, this morning, we are going to talk about the chapter 23 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, this book. And we are going to cover the subject called strange moral. And we're going to start going through some definitions and establish a basis for a common understanding of this subject matter. And strange moral, the most important word would be moral. What would it be moral for you? And sometimes we take some words for granted and we never think about it deeply, and we just use the words and never reflect about the words that we are using. But moral, generally speaking, is a message about how people should or should not behave. It's about a message. So moral teachings tell us about what would it be suitable for our happiness, in the sense of what we should do or should not do. So Jesus is known on his teachings, but with what he has done and what he has not done. And what would it be strange? Anything that is different, right? This is strange, this is different, this is not familiar. This is difficult to understand, right? This is strange. So, strange moral, that's the chapter that Allan Kardec separated to talk about some messages from Jesus Christ that he thought were unusual, were difficult to understand. And we are going to bring about another concept, another idea as well this morning. Because when I started to read about this chapter, I couldn't avoid to reflect, why is it that Kardec has separated a special chapter calling it strange moral, whereas in a sense for incarnated human beings, generally speaking, if you look at the material daily challenges that we go through, in reality what we see is what we see, what we touch is what we touch. So in a sense, incarnated individuals would consider naturally, and please don't misunderstand me, okay? We're going to go over that more deeply. But our natural tendency would be to consider that this is a material world. Therefore, all Jesus' teachings would be strange. And we'll cover that as well, okay? So, let me ask you a question. Did Jesus Christ come to humanity and gave humanity new moral lessons? Yes? Or did Jesus Christ, he revealed to humanity God's law? Was a revelation or was something new that he brought? Was a revelation, right? So Jesus Christ did not establish new laws. And might be a subtle consideration, but if we think deeply, God has been revealing His laws to humanity, first with Moses, then with Jesus, and now with the Spiritist doctrine. And this idea of revelation is important because the laws that are revealed, they are eternal in essence. Nobody, no group, no individual, no entity came to establish new rules for us. Does it make sense? Okay? And we can expect in the same framework, we can expect that no other entity would come in the future and undo anything that is done already. The reality, the truth, the deep truth that we're living, the laws that govern our lives, they are eternal, immutable. They do not change. Does it make sense? Okay. So, the concept of paradox. Does anybody know what's a paradox? When we're going to talk about strange moral, it came to my mind the idea of what's contradictory, what is apparently not logical. It's not reasonable. So a paradox is a statement or situation that may be true but seems impossible or difficult to understand because it contains two opposite facts or characteristics. It is also a statement or proposition that leads to a conclusion that seems senseless, logically unacceptable, or self-contradictory. So when we enter this discussion about strange moral, we are going to be covering some concepts related to paradoxical thinking. It's confusing? Paradoxical thinking? No? Let's talk a little bit about that so that we understand it a little bit better. When we say, for instance, in order to understand this world and to be able to progress, to learn, to evolve, one needs to be consistently inconsistent. Why am I saying that? Because if we consider what we know so far as absolute truth, unchangeable, nothing else can come in, and what we know already cannot be transformed, then we are stuck. Does it make sense that we do not allow the learning process to take place if we do not have flexibility? So in a sense, it is very important that we hold our paradigms, our reality, and we cherish it, and we consider it, we reflect upon it, and we live the best we can on the teachings that we have learned so far. This is very critical, this is very important. But at the same time, we have to allow the door to be open for questioning. We have to be prepared for the new. The idea of paradoxical thinking is to allow for the third way In Portuguese we say terceira via. I didn't find a terceira via in English, so I'm calling it the third way. So it's neither this or that, but maybe both. What's the other thing that calls, it's a characteristic of the paradox? The paradox gets our attention. General statements, you hear it goes from one ear and it goes away on the other. But when you hear a paradox, it catches your attention. You say, what do you mean? What do you mean when I said you have to be consistently inconsistent? Everybody paid attention. Everybody thought about that, didn't you? It caught your attention. It made you think. Most of the things we hear, we don't think about them. But when you hear a paradox, you think about it. You stop, you pause, you ponder what you've just heard. So the paradox makes you think. That's one. Another thing about the paradox is that it keeps you thinking. Once you heard, it establish roots in your mind. So it keeps you thinking, it keeps you moving, your head keeps moving. So stand still does not work for our good. Another aspect that I think is one of the most important aspects, and this is part of Jesus' teachings. Why are we talking about this subject? Because it's part of Jesus' let's say, dialectic. It's part of Jesus' way of teaching people. It's the way we learn how to learn. So that's important, to learn how to learn. That's the idea of the dialectic. That's the idea of Jesus' teachings for us. And the most important, in a sense, is to allow for creativity. When you allow yourself to reflect on everything that you know, you open the door for creativity. You permit creativity to take place. It allows for alternate solutions. Solutions that were never there may come into place. Not one nor the other, but both. Einstein, for instance, developed the law of relativity by considering that an object is in motion and at rest at the same time. Does it make sense to you? Are you in motion or at rest? But I'll tell you, you are both. You are in motion, you are at rest. And this idea, all geniuses, all humanity geniuses, they all had this capacity of bringing opposing ideas together, to think about opposing ideas together. It's the effect of the transience of truth that puts humanity in the evolving gear all the time. So we are growing, we are evolving, we are creating new things. Moses was absolute until Jesus came. Right? We were there. We heard Moses. And he was absolute until Jesus came. And the teachings of Christianity, they were absolute until the Spiritism came and reestablished a lot of things and brought about new things. It doesn't mean in no one of the cases that the law changed. The law was always the same, and that we learn with the Spiritist doctrine. We learn that the law was always there, govern our relationships, governing the moral world, but we are getting to know it better every time. The idea, Newton was absolute until Einstein came, right? Newton was absolute until Einstein came. So the idea of paradoxical thinking keeps our curiosity. It maintains our curiosity. One known paradox, philosophical paradox, is that the existence of evil seems to be incompatible with the existence of an omnipotent, omniscient, and morally perfect God. Let me repeat it for you. The existence of evil seems to be incompatible with the existence of an omnipotent, omniscient, and morally perfect God. Isn't it? Did this statement caught your mind? Right? Okay. One that I found it very, very interesting as well. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. That's a little bit more complex. Let me repeat it for you. Okay? You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. Did you understand that? Who understood it? Nobody. Let me tell you. We need to have faith that will prevail at the end. It means that everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. But if you think that everything is going to be all right, and then you sit and stand still, what's going to happen? It's not going to happen. So, yes, you have to think that everything is going to be all right. You have to have faith that you will prevail at the end. Right? You have to have this faith. This is very important. But don't confuse it with the concept that you have to work to make it happen. That's paradoxical thinking. All right? Now, it's okay now?
Yeah.
Right? So, are you, everybody is following me? Okay, okay. That's for Sherry. Higher level of self-awareness is associated with higher level of psychological distress and with psychological well-being. Confusing? Let me repeat. Higher level of self-awareness is associated with higher level of psychological distress and with psychological well-being. Okay? That everybody understood that? Did everybody? Okay. We have learned from history that we do not learn from history. Good, huh? Okay. Now we are coming to what matters most. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are you who are poor, for the kingdom of God belongs to you. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. But woe to you who are rich, for you have already received your comfort. Woe to you who are well fed now, for you will go hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will mourn and weep. What do you think about that? We've been preparing, to hear those teachings from Jesus. Isn't that apparently contradictory? Let's say in the sense that you were born to this world and you are not aware that you are an eternal spirit that has a past and has a future. You are here and you are, pragmatic about existence, and you look at life and then somebody tell you those things. Wouldn't they sound unusual to you when you hear that? So when Kardec separated, and we're going to go to the parables that Kardec has separated, we're going to cover them. But when we go far back, 2,000 years ago, and look at all those teachings, wouldn't they sound strange to you? The compensation, Kardec wrote that, the compensation promised by Jesus to the afflicted could only be effected in a future life. Without the certainty of this future, these maxims would be a contradiction. Okay, we were talking about contradiction, right? Still more, they would be a decoy. Even with this certainty, it is difficult to understand the convenience of suffering in order to be happy. It is difficult to understand the convenience to suffer in order to be happy. Still it is, isn't it? Even with the idea that Spiritism brings to us about reincarnation, we struggle. We trust Jesus Christ. We have this emotional connection with Him, and we allow this teaching process to take place within our hearts because we trust Him. It is not because we realized all these teachings that we are intellectually more mature and we reflected and we pondered about all those teachings, and then we consider those teachings suitable to our needs, and then after pondering and reflecting we decided we were going to take them as good things for us, and then we'll put ourselves in gear to understand more, to deepen our knowledge about Jesus' teachings. That's not true. We trusted first of all, and then we allowed the learning process to take place. I think I told that here already, but the repetition is the mother of learning. Make sense? Okay, I ask you, and if I asked before, I apologize. I ask you, do your kids obey you because they understand you philosophically, everything that you're teaching to them? They intellectually interpret everything and reflect and ponder, say, yeah, my dad has a point here, let me follow him. Okay? Does it happen? No? Or do your kids, they love you so much, they feel your love so deeply, that they do whatever you tell them because they trust you. What's happening? Do they trust you because they love you and they learn to love, to trust your love? I used to use an image. I think I've used this before, but it's never too much to say again. My kids, when they were young, 2, 3, so I used to go to Angra dos Reis, it's a city in Rio, it's in Brazil, and we had a house there, and with a pool. They were so small, so tiny. And I would go to the pool, I would stand still in the pool, and none of them would know how to swim. And I asked them, come to your daddy. And they would come running and jump. If I wasn't there, they would drown, for sure. But did they think about it? No. They opened their arms and they just jumped. So that's us, in a sense. We are jumping. We need to jump. We have to trust God. And we are jumping in this beautiful and challenging adventure of living. That's us. And we trust the guy who is the guy in the water? Jesus Christ is the guy in the water. Come, I'm going to hold you. Trust me. So that's it. We're talking about that. This trust that we need to have in our Master. I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden those things from the wise and the learned and revealed them to the little children. Isn't that beautiful? Why? Why? Well, listen. Don't take for granted anything that I'm saying. I'm teaching you that you have to doubt what I'm saying. Right? That's the whole idea of learning, is to questioning. It's not negatively doubting, but questioning. But putting your mind to think. Don't just listen to the teachings that you receive like you are watching to a TV. The idea is for you to think, to move your mind. Woe to the world because of the offenses. Such sinful things must come, but woe to the man from whom the offense comes. So it's necessary. But woe for those that are responsible for them. This one is the most powerful and most strange in I would say, at 2,000 years ago, still today. You have heard it said that you should love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say that you should love your enemies, bless those that curse you, do good to those that hate you, and pray for those who treat you badly and persecute you. Isn't it contradictory? Does it make sense? Initially not. But then, to establish a rationale behind it, the Spiritist doctrine came and opened a lot of new possibilities to understand that. The reincarnation is the key here. By knowing that we are eternal, immortal beings, that we had previous lives and still we have other lives to come, we understand that this apparent paradox is not contradictory. We understand that we have done a lot of things in the past. Still we have a lot of things that we have, a lot of things that we've done made people suffer. And now we realize that Jesus' teachings were telling us about our responsibilities. It was nothing that was not established already. It's a law, and we've been suffering through reincarnation one after the other because we weren't aware of it. And then you make me suffer. Oh my God, I'm gonna make you suffer, my friend. And then you come back in another life and you gonna make me suffer. Then I'll say, oh you made me suffer again? I'll make you suffer. And then we were coming back because this is life, okay? The law was there always, eternally. We weren't capable of understanding this, but we're getting, you know, always one do and then the other do and then the other do again, and we would hurting each other, you know, continuously, consistently, life after life. And then because we couldn't understand it differently, but then we became capable of understanding it and put a stop. How do we put a stop to it? How? One word. Forgiveness, right? Oh, somebody said that. Forgiveness. Jesus taught us that. Many of us applied this idea, but many of us couldn't because we could not understand. But many trusted Jesus as the guy in the pool and applied that concept. And many of us, we didn't jump in the pool, right? And many of us needed to know that the guy in the pool was trustworthy, was reliable. And now the Spiritist doctrine is telling us about it. You have been told that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist the evil someone may wish to do to you. If someone strikes you on your left cheek, turn to him the other also. Did everybody understand that? No, somebody said no. Okay. You have been told that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist the evil someone may wish to do to you. If someone strikes you on your left cheek, turn to him the other also. Strange, isn't it? Why would I turn? He's making me bad thing. He's hurting me. Why would I? Doesn't that catch your attention? This idea, it catches your attention. It makes you ponder. It makes you think. But now, do we understand now? Why should we? We may understand. We may understand, but we may comprehend, but we don't understand. I was, you know, we have to stop 15 minutes for questions and answers. Is that right? Okay. I was thinking the other day, why is it, let's put suffering in perspective. Let's put suffering in perspective. We all suffer. Everybody suffers. Morally, physically, illnesses, difficulties, relationships, loved ones that go away because they just go away or because God called them. We all suffer. Why would Jesus say, blessed are the suffering? Why would Jesus say that? Blessed are the afflicted. Why?
Because they will be recompensated in a future life.
Yes, okay, but why?
Because we go through the suffering.
We go through the suffering? That's good. But why is it that, you know, one would say, let's be practical. Listen, okay, I can suffer or I can suffer. I can suffer here or I can suffer there. I don't like it to suffer. I just don't like it. You know, I don't want to suffer. Nobody goes to pray at night and say, Jesus, please send me a lot of suffering tomorrow. I really would like that. Do you do that? No, even though you said, yes, it makes you progress, it makes you growth, and you know, all virtues are behind suffering. But do you say, Carla?
I believe when we suffer, we look for God. So we look for Him, we try to do better, we try to understand what is the situation He brought to us, and He approached us to God. And with the suffering, He makes us to look for Him and to learn.
It's better to suffer than to make suffer.
Yes.
But why? I'll tell you why. Because when you are looking at suffering, you are looking at a healing process that is taking place. And when you are looking to a person that is making suffering to happen, you are looking at a person that is getting ill and is going to suffer a lot. And I'll tell you something else. On the spiritist perspective, when you suffer here, you are, as I said, you are in the process of recovering your health, your spiritual health. But if you are making bad decisions here and making people suffering, you're going to suffer not only here, but in the spiritual realm as well. And the suffering in the spiritual realm, it's much, much more intense and longer than the suffering here. And there's nothing to mitigate your suffering when you are at the spiritual realm. That's why when we are there, we choose to reincarnate here to, you know, filter all those bad things that are there in our psychological, in our thinking, in our spiritual body that's there condensed, and the only way to get it removed is to come here to suffer, but to suffer as a healing process. Right? Okay. Well, I've made you suffer this morning for a while, and it's good for you. It's good for you. But I have only 10 minutes, and I didn't cover everything. And I noticed that I'm not going to be able to do that. But let me tell you something. The idea of the lecture is to make you think about what's being taught and look for the source. So the source this morning, as I told you, is the chapter 23 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Please, if you don't have it, take a look. We're talking about the most important things of our lives. And it's inevitable to think about the moment that we're going to leave this world. And this morning, just to make a point here, I got the news that a very dear aunt has passed away this morning. And talking about consolation, I went to my mother's before I came here to console her a little bit. And then, of course, I'm going to go again. And when things like that happens, and then it triggers the process of what are we doing here? And then you go back to your younger years and you remember the good times you have with the people that you love, and then they just go away and leave. Even, and now with the Spiritist doctrine, we understand that everybody is blessed. Everything is all right, actually. And everybody, the one that has a most difficult life and the one that has a much better apparent life. Everybody is blessed. And we have to trust that and to live that and to deepen our knowledge by means, we are Spiritists, by means of getting to know the Spiritist doctrine that we embraced. And this small group, sometimes we forget about that. And let's go 2,000 years in the past and talking about the Spiritism and talking about the Christianity that was taking place at the time. Let's remember Paul. Do everybody know Paul? Saul and Paul? Do everybody know what happened with Saul and Paul? Was it necessary for Paul to be preceded by Saul?
Yes.
Was it? That's a paradox. That's a paradox. The first and the first open enemy and most cruel enemy of Christianity, the first was Saul. And then he was transformed. Or did he transform himself?
He was transformed.
Was he transformed?
Yes.
Ike, my friend, I respectfully disagree with you. But we'll talk about that afterwards, okay? But was it? But ponder. I don't want, don't get answers easily. Think and ponder. Was it Saul necessary for us to have Paul? So I don't have the, we have to talk about that. But the whole idea is that let's close that. We think about apparent contradictions. Those are apparent only. Once we consider that the opposite are part, the stick has two ends, right? The stick has two ends, but still they are part of the same stick, don't they? Okay, so let's think about that, okay? And now I'm going to stop and allow you to ask questions. And I don't have neither Marcelo nor Susana today. Okay. But go ahead. Thank you.